It's it's a very unusual situation that we have on our hands here. The crime scene itself, what was seemingly and apparently random, and now we have a young man, Larry Kobolinski, 28 years of age, who has studied criminology for a long time, and is a very even demeanor, according to authorities, while in custody and only asking a single question as reported, has anyone else been arrested? How does it complicate the analysis of dealing with someone with his kind of skills and background?
Well, it's hard because he studied criminal justice, obviously, and he studied crime, and he's even done surveys to see how people felt as they were committing crimes. It seems that what I heard in this TikTok presentation is that he was into drugs even as a young person. And this might explain the rage and the passion and the terrible stabbing that he did to these 4 students. And he may have been on stimulants. He may have progressed from heroin, which is more down, to amphetamines and cocaine and things of that sort. And that might explain the viciousness of the attack.
Now, Counselor, at the end of the day, we only know what authorities can show. And as tantalizing as it may be, his background, his criminology studies, and how he appears in pictures and from reports, they're going to have to show what for this to stick?
Well, they're going to have to show that it was, they believe they're charging him with first degree. So they're going to have to show that it was premeditated, that it wasn't a situation where he just ended up in that room, there was a scuffle, and this terrible scene happened. They're going to have to show that this was planned in order for a first degree murder conviction to stick. And I think that the autopsy reports showing that these victims were likely asleep when they were first stabbed, at least, which is absolutely terrible. I think that that's going to take care of that, the chance that anybody could argue that it wasn't premeditated, because obviously if you're going and stabbing people that are sleeping, there's only really one reason to do that. So I think just with those bare facts, it's a very, very strong case for a first degree argument. I don't think that there's much that a defense is going to be able to argue that it wasn't premeditated. Now, getting into the history of drugs, the long history of drugs, obviously, since he was in high school, maybe even before then, there could very well be a mental health defense. There could be a defense about he didn't have the capacity at the time to form that intent. And that's where the argument is going to be, for sure.
Now, would not help you so much on the issue of guilt, but this is a death penalty state in Idaho, and obviously sentencing, you're going to have different aggravating, mitigating circumstances. Now, look, we're a very long way from that, Kobolinski, because the main thing that we have to have established here is putting him in the house. Now, they charged him with felony burglary in addition to the 4 homicides, which is, of course, a layering charge just to put more irons in the fire, but also suggests, Larry, they can put him in the house. And picking this guy up who wasn't in any of the video.
Chris, he's definitely in the house. His DNA is either mixed with blood of the victims, or it's on or underneath the fingernails of the victim. I think we may have frozen.
No, I got you, Larry. Keep talking.
I'm sorry, there may be DNA under the fingernails of the victim. And that would... You know, these people tried to defend themselves. There were defense wounds, and 1 or 2 may have scratched at the assailant. And it may very well be DNA under the fingernails, and that will tie him completely. There also may be mixtures of blood. And as you heard earlier today, Cece explained that these mixtures can be deconvoluted, and you can come up with his profile.
I mean, look, here's the troubling suspicion at this point. He didn't belong in the house. He's not a contemporary. He doesn't go to the university. He didn't live there. He's not somebody we saw that night. He's not somebody that the family is coming out and say, oh, no, that guy, we've known him forever. So, again, it's for the prosecutor to do the work. But it's not something where, okay, like the boyfriend early on or the other guy on the videotape, where there needs to be an explanation of context. Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, And you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.